Well, I was deployed in the Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, as a civilian Foreign Service officer, but fully integrated in the military chain of command. And the chain of command in MACV through the advisory program out into every one of the 44 provinces was basically the U.S. Army. There were some Naval and Air Force officers assigned to certain functions, so I came across them. But everybody on my district advisory team was in the U.S. Army. All of my senior bosses and supervisors, commanders were from the U.S. Army. And so most of what I've talked about has been about the U.S. Army in Vietnam. But there's this separate story of the many interactions I had with the U.S. Navy, and which were really very, very remarkable and interesting stories. And this all came during my time in Sa Dec Province. And one of the reasons is that in Sa Dec, while there was a U.S. Army advisory team to the ARVN 9th Division, and there was our provincial advisory team, there was also a Navy support base. Now, the Navy is well known for good food, and being a civilian, I could have privileges at the Navy mess, which I took advantage of. So when I was in Sa Dec, I would go and have lunch, and it was always a treat. They always seemed to have ice cream, which wasn't available at the Army mess, and good food. And I'd be sitting in their wardroom, as they referred to it, with a lot of young naval officers. Most of them were ensigns, second lieutenants, in the equivalent in the Army, Navy lieutenants, who were in their first tour in the Navy. Most of them were driving small brown water Navy boats, the brown water Navy, PBRs, patrol boat, riverines, swift boats, fast boats. And so I get to have exchanges with them. One of the officers who was there, although I don't honestly know if I met him or not, but was there at the same time, and good chance we were at least in the same room together, was John Kerry, later United States Senator from Massachusetts, the Secretary of State, and the presidential candidate. So while we didn't recall whether we met each other or not, the fact that we were there together later when I did get to work with him on POW MIAs, and when he was Secretary of State and we did our World Food Prize announcements at the State Department, we had wonderful exchanges, and he said very nice things about me and my assignment. But I had the wonderful opportunity to operate with Navy pilots. There were a unit called Black Ponies. That was their call sign. And they were OV-10, which are twin engine propeller planes that would fly at fairly slow speed at low altitudes with a lot of ordnance. And they were like flying around and doing missions at night. And they were based near my headquarters in Duc Ton. And so we had them on our call sign, and they'd call in maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night, say, Delta Base, Black Pony 27 or Black Pony 66, and checking in, looking for targets. They were coming back. They hadn't been engaged in any contact. They had ordnance. They didn't want to land with it. And so we had prepared strike zones, areas in our district that we knew there were no civilians. We knew the Vietcong and the North Vietnamese Army was in there and moving, and we would give them a target. And they would come, they'd fly over, they'd pop flares over the area. We could see it from our team house, illuminating the area. We'd have nearby outposts, direct either with lasers or flares, pointing them towards the targets we wanted to hit. And night after night, the Black Ponies would come and strike and hit the Vietcong and North Vietnamese base areas when they were least expecting it. So we were really very, very grateful. Once I arranged with the helicopter pilots at Vinh Long, the Army helicopter pilots, to fly to their Navy base, which was 60 or 70 miles away, pick up the pilots, fly them to my team house so we could meet them face to face. We cooked up steaks on the grill and had beers and just thanked them, saying, hey, we're Delta Base. You're Black Pony 66, or I remember you're Black Pony 43, or and just thanking them. It's that was that camaraderie in war. We also had other opportunities when we had our outposts that were near the river under attack, and the Navy PBRs would come on station, and we'd have them on our radio call sign. So important, if our base was going to be overrun, we had to evacuate the American advisors. We could count on these Navy boats. They didn't have any armament on them, just a machine gun, very exposed, but they did incredibly brave things. They would come up on these narrow canals and be supporting us whenever we needed it. I had such incredible admiration. I rode with the Swift boats in another province. We had a Vietcong defector who was leading us to a Vietcong headquarters, and we're riding on the Swift boats, assaulting the island. The rounds are coming from the Vietcong at the boats, and the Navy officers, these young officers, they were incredibly brave and driving ahead, and we were, laying down as flat as we could on the boat till we got to the shore and would leap off. I had such admiration for individuals in the Navy. I wanted to be sure that I recorded and told their story.